The knock came at 2:06 a.m., sharp, deliberate, cruel. I opened the door of the penthouse I used to call mine, still dizzy from sleep, my silk camisole clinging to my skin like a second betrayal. "Mrs. Whitmore," the man in the hallway said with a smug smile. He wore a tailored navy suit and carried a thick envelope. "Correction, Miss Carter. On behalf of Mr. Whitmore, I'm here to deliver your final divorce offer." I blinked. "Final?" He didn't flinch. "You have 24 hours to sign, or lose everything. No threats, no yelling, just efficient destruction." That's how Ethan operates. My name is Delilah Carter. I'm 34 years old, and I used to be the co-founder of Whitmore Labs, a rising biotech firm in Seattle that Forbes once dubbed the startup to watch. I was also the wife of Ethan Whitmore, CEO, billionaire, manipulator, and the man I used to love like oxygen. I say used to because tonight, I'm standing barefoot in my own damn hallway, holding a folder that would strip me of everything I built beside him. And yet I don't slam the door. I smile. Because Ethan doesn't know, I still have the old server password, the one from year one, the one he thought we wiped clean when the FBI began sniffing around his patent trials. He thinks he's playing chess. He doesn't realize I've already moved my queen. But let me back up, because this didn't start with lawyers in the middle of the night. No, it started 3 months ago, with a flash of red lace panties and a groan echoing from the company elevator. That was the first time I heard her, the new assistant, the one with the wet lips, fake lashes, and a waist you could grip with one hand. I remember standing frozen outside the elevator doors, the conference notes still in my hands. I'd just come from a meeting with the FDA. We were about to get clearance for our new diagnostic chip, a breakthrough that took me 4 years of clinical trials to develop. And there he was, balls deep in his intern, still wearing his conference badge. He didn't even look ashamed when the doors opened and saw me. "D," he'd said with that smirk that used to turn me on. "It's not what it looks like." It was exactly what it looked like. I didn't scream. I didn't slap him. I didn't even cry. Instead, I went back to my office, poured myself 2 fingers of bourbon, and opened the old cloud drive we used to share before Ethan created the new internal system he thought I'd been locked out of. Turns out, the girl in the elevator wasn't the only one being fucked. There were files, offshore accounts, NDA payouts, manipulated stock price forecasts sent to insiders just before our last valuation. It was all there. I should have gone to the press right then. I should have sent the files to the SEC, but I didn't. Because if I've learned anything from being married to Ethan Whitmore, it's this. You don't beat a monster by screaming. You beat him by making him kneel. And to make him kneel, I needed to play this slower. But now, standing here, shivering in lace and silk under the cold LED hallway lights, I realize something's changed. He's making his move faster than I expected. Why? What did he find out? Did he know I was in the server? Did he know I copied the files? Did he know I met Noah? God, Noah. The memory of his breath on my collarbone, just last week in San Francisco, still lingers like a bruise I don't want to fade. He's more than an investor. He's the one who told me, if you want to win, Delilah, you need to stop being a wife and start being a weapon. But was he playing me too? The man in the hallway coughs. "Miss Carter, I do need a signature." I stare at the folder in my hand. It's heavy, too heavy to just be legal jargon. And I spot it, a clause hidden in Section 8, a transfer of 28% of my silent shares to a Cayman entity, one I don't recognize. So this isn't just a divorce. It's a hostile acquisition. The hallway tilts for a moment, like my balance is failing me. No, I won't let it. "You can tell Mr. Whitmore," I say, voice steady as I slide the folder back into the envelope. "He should have sent someone sexier to screw me over." I shut the door before he can respond. Back inside, I grab my burner phone and type in the encrypted number. It rings 3 times before Noah picks up. "Delilah?" he says, sounding amused. "Shouldn't you be asleep?" "They moved," I say. He's forcing my hand. I need extraction. I need a plan. There's a long silence. Then, "I told you this would get dangerous." I glance down at the silk strap falling off my shoulder and laugh without humor. "It already is. Now tell me, do we still have leverage at Helix Holdings? Or did he buy them too?" That's when I hear it. Static. A second click. Someone's listening. The mistress trap backfired. The next morning, I didn't go to war with lawyers. I went to war with lipstick, red, dangerous red, the kind of red that says, I know what you did, and I'm about to smile while I ruin you. I slipped into a white silk blouse with 2 buttons too low and a high-slit pencil skirt that hugged my hips like a secret. If I was going to play bait, I needed to look like a fantasy worth burning a marriage for. Because today, I was going to bring down Camilla Rhett, Ethan's assistant, his elevator girl. The plan was simple. Catch her on camera, trap her into admitting the affair, leak it to the board, and start cracking Ethan's corporate armor. Use sex to expose sex. But I underestimated Camilla. God, I underestimated her. I invited her to brunch at a quiet little French bistro in Capitol Hill, posed as the forgiving ex-wife trying to make peace. She came in a bodycon dress, skin like caramel, lips glossy and too knowing for her age. She ordered a mimosa like she owned the place. I was surprised when I got your message, she purred, crossing her legs. I thought you'd want to kill me. Oh, honey, I smiled. Not over a man like Ethan, she laughed. Smart girl. We sipped, we gossiped. I nudged the conversation toward, how good is he in bed territory. Her eyes lit up. That's when I knew. She didn't think she was a side piece. She thought she'd won. He tells me I'm the first woman who ever really challenged him, she said, swirling her straw. Says you were too soft, too emotional. I tilted my head, and yet he still hasn't left me. Strange. There it was, that tiny flicker of insecurity in her perfect almond eyes. I slipped my phone under the napkin, recording every word. So, just to be clear, I said sweetly, you've been sleeping with Ethan for how long now? She didn't answer. Come on, I'm not wearing a wire. Lie. She sipped her mimosa. 7 months. Got her. I smiled and ended the recording under the table. And that's when she leaned in and whispered, you might want to delete that before you regret it. My blood turned cold. Excuse me? Her smile never wavered. Did you think I didn't know? Ethan told me all about your little tech background, the cybersecurity degree, the startup you sold in college. You're not just some trophy ex-wife. She placed her phone flat on the table. A red blinking light glowed faintly at the top. Shit. She was recording me. I've got 6 recordings of you setting this up. Do you really want to go nuclear, Delilah? She said softly. Because I will leak it first. And then she stood, fixed her lipstick in the mirror, and walked away without looking back. I sat there, stunned, the bitter taste of loss rising in my throat. How the hell did she turn it around so fast? What else had Ethan told her? Had he known I'd come for her? Back home, I tossed the mimosa-stained phone onto the couch and poured a glass of whiskey. My hands were shaking. I'd been played. Badly. The board wouldn't believe me now. And worse, if she leaked her version first, I'd look like the vindictive ex-wife who tried to sabotage a perfectly consensual office relationship. I was losing. Fast. Noah called that night. You moved too soon, he said flatly. She baited me, I snapped. She knew everything. She knew what Ethan let her know, he replied. Don't forget, she's not the queen. She's the pawn he's using to draw your fire. I clenched my jaw. Then maybe it's time I stop aiming at pawns. Pause. You're ready? He asked. I just lost every card I had. If I don't move now, it's over. Good, Noah said, because I have something for you. What? The server you thought Ethan destroyed? We found it. I froze. The old one? From Whitmore Labs? Encrypted, hidden, masked, but yes, and Delilah. He hesitated. There's more on it than patents. What does that mean? I mean, you're not just fighting a divorce anymore. You're sitting on evidence of criminal conspiracy. Ethan's been selling pre-approval data to pharma investors illegally to spike stocks before FDA rulings. It's bigger than we thought. I couldn't breathe. How soon can I see it? Tomorrow. But there's a problem. Of course there is. The drive's in Zurich, which meant flying. Exposing myself. And leaving the city, which meant he'd know I was gone. I looked out the window. Seattle was dark, blanketed in fog and neon. My war had just escalated from love triangle to corporate espionage, and I wasn't even close to ready. But there was one question that haunted me more than anything. If Ethan was already this ruthless now, what the hell was he saving for the endgame? I knew, and I let him think I didn't. Zurich was colder than I expected. Colder than Seattle, colder than betrayal, colder than the empty space. Ethan left on my side of the bed the night he never came home. I stepped off the plane in a tailored trench coat and thigh-high suede boots, looking less like a woman running from war and more like one walking straight into it. Noah was already waiting near the tarmac in a black car, engine humming, sunglasses even at dusk. "You're late," he said as I slid into the passenger seat. "I'm bleeding," I replied. "Give me a minute to feel powerful again." He didn't smile. "You're not safe here. We've already spotted Whitmore's people circling the hotel we had for you." "That fast?" "He knows. He suspects. Your passport pinged the second it landed." Of course, I underestimated him, again. We drove through the winding Swiss streets until we reached an unassuming safe house built into the hillside. Noah keyed in the code, led me downstairs, and there it was, the black hard drive that held the truth of a billion-dollar lie. I sat, hands trembling, as I plugged it into a secure terminal. There were folders, and within those, names. Senators, executives, multiple FDA employees. I clicked a file titled Project Oracle. It was worse than I thought. Ethan had been leaking trial outcomes for 3 years, before public announcements, before FDA calls, before even I knew. He wasn't just manipulating investors. He was fixing lives and deaths for profit. I stood up so fast my chair toppled. He could go to prison for this. He could go to war for this, Noah said quietly. This kind of power doesn't disappear quietly, Delilah. I should have been thrilled, elated, vindicated. Instead, I felt terrified. What kind of man sleeps beside you for 5 years while building this underneath your feet? And worse, how had I not seen it? Noah stepped forward, his hand brushing the curve of my waist. "You still want revenge?" he asked. "I want him to burn," I whispered. His fingers slid lower, slow and firm. "Then let's turn up the heat." He kissed me then. Hard. It wasn't soft or exploratory. It was possession, heat, greed, the kind of kiss that pulls you out of grief and into fire. I knew what I was doing. I let his mouth find my collarbone, my shoulder, the silk strap slipping down. I let his hands map every inch of me until I wasn't Delilah the wife anymore. I was Delilah the threat, the seductress, the silent reaper. And then I whispered, "Leave the drive. I'll bring it back with me." He blinked. "Alone? Yes. If Ethan suspects you're involved, he'll make you the target. I'm already marked." It was risky, maybe even suicidal. But he nodded. "Be careful." Back in Seattle, I walked into Ethan's office like I hadn't just flown across the world with his destruction in my purse. I wore the green satin blouse he used to rip off me in hotel suites after conferences. His eyes flickered when he saw me. "Dee," he said, "you're glowing." "You know me," I replied. "Nothing like rejection to bring out the good skin." He poured us both a drink. Scotch? Neat. "I heard you've been busy," he said slowly, watching me too closely. "Doing what? Crying in yoga?" He chuckled. But the moment he handed me the glass, I saw it. The tiny shimmer in the liquid. A sedative? He raised his own glass and clinked mine. To clean endings. I didn't drink. He did. And I realized with a sick twist in my stomach, it wasn't the glass meant for me. It was the glass meant for him. He was testing me. I set it down. "You know I don't drink scotch anymore." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "No, you don't. Not since I stopped controlling your liquor cabinet." I excused myself to the restroom and locked the door. My breath shook as I opened my clutch and checked the hard drive. Still there, still intact, still ticking like a bomb. But as I stared at myself in the mirror, I knew something was wrong. I'd made a mistake. Ethan wasn't trying to kill me. He was trying to see if I'd try to kill him. He knew about the server. He knew I had the data. He knew I'd found the back door. And yet, he hadn't stopped me. Why? The answer slammed into me like ice. Because he wanted me to have it. I stared at my reflection, mascara perfect, blouse pristine, body still humming from Noah's touch the night before. Was I being played again? Had Noah betrayed me? What if the server wasn't a leak, but a trap? A setup? Was I holding a loaded gun pointed at myself? I flushed the toilet for show, reapplied my lipstick, and walked back into the office like nothing cracked. But everything had. Ethan leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled. "I still love watching you walk away," he murmured. "Careful," I replied. "You might miss the moment I stop walking and start running." I turned without waiting for his response, because I needed to get out, not to strike back, but to figure out what the hell I just walked into. And the worst part? I still didn't know who the real enemy was. The hidden accounts and the hot investor. When I got home that night, the apartment felt off, too quiet. The air tasted recycled, stale, like someone had been inside and left before I returned. I didn't turn on the lights. Instead, I slipped off my heels, grabbed the taser I kept hidden behind the doorframe, and padded silently to the kitchen. Every drawer was as I left it, the wine glasses still perfectly aligned. Except, the bottom panel of the hallway closet was shifted by less than half an inch. That was Ethan's style. Not robbery. Message. He was letting me know he could still reach me whenever he wanted. I slammed the panel shut and walked to my desk. There, glowing faintly on the screen, was an email from Noah. Subject, trust. You need to see this. Now, 54th and Madison, Suite 17, code 2884. My chest tightened. I knew that address. One of Noah's private offices, off the books. He never used it unless something was too hot to even mention on encrypted calls. I grabbed the drive, tucked it into the lining of my thigh-high boot, and changed into black jeans and a leather jacket. Something tight, agile. Something I could run in or fight in if I had to. When I arrived, Noah opened the door, shirtless, sweat clinging to his collarbones, a towel around his neck. You picked a hell of a time for cardio, I said. Not cardio, a setup. He led me in, shut the blinds, and gestured toward a tablet on the table. I decrypted a second level in the drive, he said. It wasn't just stock manipulation, D. There's a web of false shell companies, and guess who owns one of them? I scrolled through the files. My name, on a holding account in the Caymans. What the hell is this? It means Ethan's been laundering money under your name for 2 years. My stomach dropped. He's framing me. Or protecting himself, Noah replied. If this explodes, you go down as the criminal architect. He walks free. No, he wouldn't, but I stopped myself. Of course he would. Noah watched me closely. You said you wanted to make him pay. Now you see the cost. I sank into the leather couch, breath shallow. So I'm fucked. Not yet, he said, walking over. His hands slid onto my thighs, firm and grounding. But if we're going to make a move, it has to be surgical. No leaks, no emotion. One clean hit. His fingers moved slowly, tracing the inside seam of my jeans. My skin lit up. You're shaking, he said softly. I'm furious. Good. He kissed me, hard, desperate. Like he could taste the danger on my lips. And I let him. Because tonight I needed to feel power again. Needed to feel worshipped, not watched. Touched, not handled. Our clothes hit the floor in seconds. His mouth moved lower, slow and devastating. His hands gripped my hips like I was the last solid thing on earth. When he entered me, it wasn't slow. It was war. We didn't fuck to feel better. We fucked like two people who knew we might not survive tomorrow. Afterward, tangled in sweat-soaked sheets, Noah murmured, There's more. Of course there is. Jonah called me. I stiffened. Ethan's right-hand man? Yeah, except he's not just that anymore. He's scared. Noah turned and handed me a burner phone. He wants to meet tonight. Says he has something for you. I frowned. Why me? He didn't say. But Delilah, if Jonah's flipping, it means something big is coming. I met Jonah at a construction site Ethan was developing, a downtown high-rise no one was supposed to know about. It was nearly midnight. He looked different. No tailored suits, no Rolex. Just a hoodie, dark circles under his eyes, and a cigarette shaking in his fingers. Thought you'd bring Noah, he said. I wanted answers, not bodyguards. He snorted. You always were the dangerous one. What do you want, Jonah? He reached into his bag and handed me a file. Photos of Ethan, in hotel rooms, but not with women, with judges, inspectors, foreign officials. Ethan's not just manipulating the market. He's blackmailing the system, Jonah whispered. That's how he got FDA approvals, bribes, threats, and yeah, sex tapes, lots of them. I flipped through the images. How long have you known? Too long, and now I can't sleep, can't eat. I have to get out. Then why give it to me? Because, he said, eyes hollow, I know Ethan. The moment he finds out I'm gone, he'll assume you helped me. You're already dead. Might as well go out swinging. I pocketed the folder. What about you? He looked away. You never really cared about me, did you? I didn't answer. He chuckled bitterly. Thought so. Good luck, Delilah. You'll need it. I left him there in the dark, standing among the skeleton of a building built on blood and lies. But as I walked back to my car, headlights flared, a van, unmarked, and suddenly, hands, rope, cloth over my face. I kicked, bit, screamed, then darkness. I woke up in a warehouse, arms zip-tied behind me, blood in my mouth. Ethan's cologne in the air before I even saw him. He sat across from me, calm, beautiful, untouched. You made it personal, he said softly. That was your mistake. I spit blood on the floor. Framing me for a global laundering scheme wasn't? You could have walked away, taken the payout, started over. You could have loved me. He stood, walked toward me, and crouched. His fingers brushed my jaw, gentle, affectionate, like he still believed in the illusion. You're not getting out of this, Dee. And that's when I smiled, because he hadn't searched my boot, and the tracker sewn into the lining had already sent my location to Noah. But the real question was, would Noah come alone? Or had I trusted the wrong man again? Turning the tables and turning him on. The door slammed shut behind Ethan as he disappeared into the warehouse's shadowed corridors, leaving me zip-tied to a metal chair with blood drying on my lips and knees scraped raw from the struggle. The only sound was the soft, persistent drip, drip, drip from a leaking pipe somewhere behind me. Every second that passed clawed at my skin. Had Noah gotten the signal? Was he on his way? Or had he seen the location and decided I wasn't worth the risk? No, I refused to believe that. But doubt, cold and rotting, settled in my gut like a stone. Then footsteps, heavy, deliberate, not Ethan, too light, too quick. A figure emerged through the metal door. Black hoodie, ball cap pulled low. Jonah, my breath caught. You? He crouched in front of me, his voice barely above a whisper. Keep your mouth shut and let me do the talking. Are you here to help me? I hissed. He looked at me, and for a second, the old softness was there. The ghost of the man who once held my legs apart on Ethan's office desk when I was too drunk to pretend I didn't like it. And then he pulled a switchblade from his pocket. My heart spiked, but he didn't stab me. Instead, he slid the blade under the plastic zip tie and set me free. Can you walk? Depends, I said, wincing as I stood. Are we running? Not yet. You're going to meet someone. Noah? His jaw tightened. Not exactly. 10 minutes later, Jonah led me through a rusted hallway and into what looked like a boiler room. And there, arms folded, expression unreadable, stood a woman in an ivory pantsuit, blonde, high cheekbones, expensive posture. You must be Delilah, she said, her voice smooth like bourbon with a razor in it. I'm Agent Renner, a sexy. Wait, what? Jonah stepped back. You're in deep, Dee. I figured it was time you met someone who could pull you out, if you're smart. My brain was spinning. You're FBI? She chuckled. SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission. Ethan's not just a cheater or a manipulator. He's committing economic terrorism. If what you and Jonah say is true, he's about to go down in flames, and we need your help to light the match. I looked between them. So this was the plan all along? What, use me as bait? Renner didn't blink. You were already bait. At least now you're in on the play. I crossed my arms. What's in it for me? Immunity. Safety. Your name cleared. And maybe, just maybe, you get to watch him rot in a federal cell. I should have said yes, but all I could think about was that Ethan knew something the feds didn't, and I wasn't ready to hand over my cards yet. I shook my head. I'll do it, but not your way. Mine. Renner narrowed her eyes. What's your play? I turned to Jonah. Can you still get me into the event tonight? He frowned. The gala? Ethan's fundraiser? Yes, if he's going to be vulnerable anywhere. It's in front of the people he lies to the most. Renner stepped forward. Delilah, you're still bruised, bleeding. You can't just walk in. I'm not walking in, I said. I'm owning the room. 3 hours later, I stepped out of the car in a crimson satin gown that clung to every curve and shimmered like sin under the lights of the Corinthian Grand Hotel. Noah met me at the entrance. He looked stunned. You're alive. You sound surprised. I thought they killed you. I thought you ran. He grabbed my wrist. I didn't. I swear to God, Dee. I searched his face. Are you with me? His jaw clenched. I've been with you since day one. But if you're walking in there to confront him, be smart. I'm not confronting, I said with a smile. I'm seducing. Inside, the room glittered with diamonds and deceit. Men in tuxedos laughed over aged scotch. Women in backless gowns traded kisses like business cards. And then I saw him. Ethan, standing under a crystal chandelier surrounded by tech moguls, judges, and journalists. He looked like the king of the world, until he saw me. His face didn't crack, but his eyes burned. I walked straight up, heels tapping like gunfire. Surprised, I purred. He leaned in, kissed my cheek like we were still married. Not at all. I always knew you'd come crawling. I laughed. Crawling? No, darling. I came to climb. He sipped his drink. You've lost? Then why are you sweating? He didn't answer. I slid my hand up his chest. You know what your problem is, Ethan? You think no one's smarter than you. I don't think that. I know that. Then you won't mind if I say a few words to the crowd tonight? He froze. You don't have the balls. I tilted my head. But you do. And tonight, I'm going to rip them off in front of everyone. I turned, walked up to the stage, and took the mic before the MC could stop me. People turned. The music faded, and I began. Good evening. My name is Delilah Carter. I'm not just Ethan Whitmore's ex-wife. I'm his co-founder. And tonight, I'm also his whistleblower. A gasp. Ethan started moving through the crowd, but it was too late. Behind him, I saw Renner's agents in suits moving into position. You see, what Mr. Whitmore hasn't told you, I continued, is that while you were investing in his company, he was investing in blackmail, in lies, in insider deals that risked lives. The crowd erupted into murmurs, and that's when Ethan lunged, tried to grab the mic, but Noah was there, fist to jaw. Ethan went down hard. Cameras flashed, phones recorded, the illusion shattered, and all I could think was, how long until he gets back up again? Because this wasn't over. Not yet. When he begged on his knees, the first headlines broke within minutes. CEO Ethan Whitmore assaulted at gala after whistleblower bombshell. Ex-wife drops corruption bomb in live fundraiser meltdown. Stock in freefall, Whitmore Labs faces insider trading investigation. And yet, he wasn't arrested. Not that night. Renner's agents didn't cuff him. They let him walk. You said you'd take him down. I hissed at her the next morning as we sat in a dark cafe in Pioneer Square. Rain streaked the windows. You said you had what you needed. We do, she said, but not enough to stick. His legal team filed an emergency injunction against the use of any evidence tied to the hard drive, claims it was stolen, illegally accessed. That was my server, our server. I built it. But your name's on shell accounts, Delilah. Money moved through your digital fingerprint. That gives them room to say you were involved. Or worse, the mastermind. I froze. So now I'm the one under investigation? Renner didn't answer. My throat burned. I gave you everything. No, she said sharply. You gave us pieces, half-truths, performances. You want him to fall, but only on your terms. And that's not how this works. I slammed my hand against the table. He's winning again. Not yet, but the more you try to control the board, the more pieces you're going to lose. I left the cafe before I could say something unforgivable. Later that week, I opened my apartment door and found Ethan kneeling in my hallway, in a $3,000 suit, no entourage, no lawyers, just him, head bowed, hands out, like a man with nothing left to lose. I was wrong, he said. I stared at him, unmoving. That's new. I underestimated you, he murmured. I thought you'd walk. I thought if I made it ugly enough, you'd break, but you didn't. He looked up at me, eyes bloodshot, face drawn. I'm losing the company. The board's turning. Investors are panicking. Renner's still circling. And you got everyone to believe you were the victim. I said nothing. Help me, he whispered. I laughed, loud and sharp. You're insane. I'll sign everything back over, he offered. Your shares, your patents, hell, I'll put your name back on the masthead. Just don't let this become criminal. Don't let it bury me. Why not? Because, he said, voice cracking, Todd, if I fall, I'm not falling alone. My blood chilled. What does that mean? He stood up, brushing off his pants like nothing happened. I mean, there's more dirt, more names. The judge who signed your emergency protection order? On my payroll. The tech blogger who covered your side of the story? Bought. Even the goddamn florist who leaked your gala speech to the press? Paid. My knees went weak. How? Why? Because I plan 5 steps ahead, he said calmly. Always. And now that you've stepped into this world, Delilah, you better learn how to play or stay the hell out. I called Noah that night. Told him everything. He didn't sound surprised. You think I didn't know he'd try this? He asked. I think I'm in too deep. You are, he said. So now we dig deeper. He sent a package to my door an hour later. Inside was a key card, a flash drive, and a note. If he wants to play God, we show the world his heaven is fake. The drive contained recordings, not just business deals, personal conversations, bedroom conversations. Ethan had been bugging my devices for months, my phones, my laptop, even my bedroom. Noah had cracked them, and hidden in that mountain of audio was something Ethan never expected anyone to hear. A recording of him coercing an FDA rep into falsifying approval data in exchange for blackmail protection. It was raw, chilling, and admissible. because I was present in the conversation, which meant I could testify. But going public with this, it would expose everything. The sex, the deceit, the manipulation, the entire twisted relationship we had pretended was a marriage. Noah left it up to me. Push play or walk away. And I pushed. The broadcast went live the next day. National media, primetime, full audio, a synced transcript, legal annotations, even my confession of how I stayed silent too long, of how I enabled him because I wanted to believe love could clean dirty money. It was everywhere within hours. And Ethan? Gone. Vanished. No phone, no lawyer, no press statement, nothing. Then the bomb dropped. Renner called me, voice taut with panic. Ethan's legal team just filed federal countersuits. Against me? No, against the United States. He's claiming the SEC violated international trade protections by seizing foreign shell accounts tied to biotech IP. He's suing the government to suppress the case. I nearly dropped the phone. He's turning it into a constitutional crisis, she said. And if he wins that argument, none of this sticks. My stomach twisted. So, after everything, he could still walk free. If he does, he'll take you with him. I hung up, stared at the wall, and finally understood Ethan wasn't trying to win. He was trying to survive, even if that meant burning the entire system down with him. And if I didn't end this soon, he wouldn't just ruin me. He'd destroy everything. So I did the one thing I hadn't tried yet. I went back to the place it all began. The lab. The original lab, rented under my name, filled with dust and old prototypes and forgotten ambition. And buried in the back closet, inside a locked safe, I found what I was looking for. Not files, not footage, something better. Proof. A signed patent filing from 5 years ago, in Ethan's handwriting. With my name as sole inventor, no duplicate existed, no digital trace. And that patent? It was the linchpin of the entire Whitmore Labs valuation, the crown jewel of the IP. Without it, every investor contract Ethan had ever signed was invalid. Every deal, void. Every loan, fraudulent. And if I revoked the licensing agreement under my sole authority, Ethan wouldn't just lose the company, he'd owe billions. But the real twist? He couldn't sue me for it. Because he'd falsified every other version of the patent to exclude me, which meant he'd be confessing to federal fraud just by trying to stop me. It was time. Time to pull the trigger and make Ethan Whitmore finally, irreversibly, go down. My signature was the kill shot. The silence inside the courtroom felt surgical. Rows of cameras outside were blocked by federal security, but inside, just mahogany, microphones, and the weight of what I was about to do. Across the aisle sat Ethan Whitmore, perfectly tailored, hair freshly cut, calm as ever, like a man who thought this was just another round of chess. But this wasn't chess. This was execution. The judge read through the documentation in her slow, flat tone, unaware that every syllable brought us closer to a moment that would split our lives into before and after. Plaintiff Delilah Carter is asserting sole ownership of patent number 4901S, she said, adjusting her glasses, filed 5 years ago under the joint research facility once known as Whitmore Labs. The opposing counsel, a silver-haired snake who billed by the second, stood. Your Honor, we maintain that the current ownership structure was adjusted by mutual contract during marital settlement negotiations. We also request that the court disregard any physical documents not verified by USPTO archives. That was his entire play. Claimed the real patent was too real, too old, too unrecorded. But the thing about old school secrets is they leave fingerprints. I stood. Your Honor, I said, pulling a worn envelope from my briefcase. This isn't just a signed document. This envelope still carries DNA evidence. Ethan signed it, sealed it, and handed it to a former paralegal who kept it. And today, she signed a sworn affidavit. I handed it to the bailiff. Ethan didn't flinch, not until I turned to him directly and said, You buried me with fake contracts and offshore lies. But you forgot one thing, darling. Pause. Lean in. You taught me how to lie. The judge reviewed the new exhibit. Her brows twitched. Given the sworn statement, the biometric signature, and the patent authenticity verification, she said, gavel raised, this court recognizes Ms. Carter as sole inventor and primary rights holder. Effective immediately, all IP licensed under Whitmore Labs is hereby invalidated pending renegotiation or direct revocation by the inventor. Gavel. Ethan didn't blink, but his jaw clenched because that gavel cost him everything. In 30 seconds, the company he weaponized for 10 years became a financial corpse. His shares? Worthless. His contracts? Breached. His public image? Shattered. I turned to leave, but Ethan stood. I can still rebuild, he said, his voice low, measured, dangerous. You think this ends me? You needed me to become relevant. I turned, walked back to him, then leaned in until he could smell the hint of Noah's cologne on my collarbone. I didn't need you to rise, I whispered. I just needed you to fall loud enough that the world noticed. And then I walked out. The fallout was biblical. Stockholders sued him. Investors abandoned him. Criminal proceedings reopened. And Renner? She had her prize. I gave her the rest of the drive, every conversation, every bribe, every mistress, because I was done being clever in the shadows. I wanted Ethan Whitmore destroyed by daylight. Weeks later, I walked into the building that once had his name on the glass and placed a new plaque on the door. Ardent Biotech, CEO, Delilah Carter. Clean, lean, and built with a board that looked nothing like his army of rich golf buddies. Noah stood beside me, still scarred from everything, still dangerous, still loyal. I never asked, he said one night on the rooftop, whiskey in hand. Do you regret any of it? I looked out over the city, my city now, and I remembered every failure, every time I bled, every humiliation, every time I let a man unzip my dress while plotting my destruction. No, I said, because if I hadn't failed again and again, I'd still be living like a woman who owed him something. 1 year later, I sat on a panel at Stanford University. A young girl raised her hand and asked, if you could give one lesson to women in business, what would it be? I smiled. Trust your instincts, love carefully, and if a man builds an empire with your name carved out of it, I paused, don't just take it back. Burn his kingdom to the ground. The room erupted, but all I could think was, he made me a villain in his story, so I became the monster in his downfall. And honestly, I wore the crown better anyway.